Welcome back, guys, to yet another World of Warcraft The War Within video. Today we are going to be talking about leatherworking and everything that it potentially has to offer in The War Within. Before we do get into the video, I want to make sure that you guys drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel with all the notifications on as well, so you don't miss any future videos, but also help out with the algorithm and stuff on the channel. But either way, let's get straight into it. Today, we are going to be talking about leatherworking. I'm going to start with like a general overview of the profession, and then we'll go into the different kinds of specializations and what they have to offer, and maybe some build suggestions, okay? Leatherworking is, you have a couple different options in leatherworking for what you can focus on. One of them being reagents, so you're just crafting materials. There's also a couple of consumables as well, but that's in the range where you craft commodities to sell in the auction house, right? Or you use it for your gear crafting. The other place is you go for leather armor or you go for mail armor. And of course there's epic versions and some rare versions, and then you have your PvP gear as well. On top of that, you also have Arathi patterns, Nerubian patterns, Bestial patterns, and profession equipment. So you can also go for the profession equipment side, and that kind of tracks in the profession specializations for what you want to go for. These Arathi, Nerubian, and Bestial patterns, they just offer different things as for the equip effects and things like that, and the kind of materials that are used on top of these. So that's the differences. They're just items that do different stuff. It's not really anything else besides that. And you'll be able to see here that under Arathi patterns, you'll find both leather and mail gear. So you're still going to have to focus on either mail or leather gear, depending on which one that you want to focus on. And then obviously you have your profession equipment, and in leatherworking you have quite a lot of it too, because you can see down here in unlearned we have 8 of them, and then we already have 8 learned, so there's a total of 16 profession equipment pieces. Obviously there's a lot of green quality versions, as you can see here, and then we have the rare versions, the blue versions here. So still good, still a lot that you can get into there, but that's the that's the whole of the profession and everything that it has to offer. It's not that complicated, it's not that complex, but it's still a very good profession because of the fact that it covers 2 armor classes and has so much profession gear and also a lot of reagents that you can get into crafting. Now, for profession specializations, we have learned leatherworker, we have luxurious leathers, concrete, chitin. I never really figured out how to say that, so make sure to correct me down in the comments. And then we have flawless fortress. That's the way I want to read it, because forte or fortes, it's probably forte because that sounds better. But anyway, I want to call this fortress just because it's funnier. But either way, learned leatherworker is the one that goes into making your overall profession stats better for everything. You have just fundamentals here. It'll increase your it'll lower your concentration consumption. It'll unlock the subspecializations, and that's give you a little bit of ingenuity and resourcefulness when you're crafting. And you also craft 15% faster, which is good if you're mass crafting materials. And then you have a tree for multicraft here. This will increase how many items that you get from multicrafting, but also increase the total amount of multicraft you have, so it increases your chances of proccing multicrafting. Same thing goes for ingenuity. This is the same thing. You get, when ingenuity procs, you'll get even more concentration back, and it also increases the chances of proccing ingenuity. Or not ingenuity, concentration. Well, when you're using concentration, you proc ingenuity. It's a whole thing. Either way, this particular point in the tree is for ingenuity, and then you have resourcefulness, and it does, as you guessed it, the same exact thing. It makes resourcefulness better and gives it a higher chance to proc. That's the whole of that tree. Luxurious leathers, as you can see, this is if you want to get better at crafting specifically leather armor, and you'll have the options of going into, you know, whatever it is, tunics, hoods, mantles, armbands, leg wraps, grasps, waistbands, and kickers, as they call them. So you have quite a lot of options for what you might want to pick and what you might want to go into. So just keep that in mind when you're trying to make these choices, because obviously depending on lists for best in slot gear and things like that, what you want to go into might change a little bit over the seasons, but also very early on. But don't fall into a pattern where you just pick everything that mostly everyone is going to do. You want to give yourself, as just because a certain market might not look like the best doesn't mean there's not any potential profit to be made or any gold to be made. So just keep that in mind when you're thinking about that. And then this one here, this is for a male armor, and it serves the exact same purpose as the leather one. This is just whether you want to focus on male or leather first. That's up to you early on. Then we have Flawless, a Forte. Hopefully I'm saying these right. In case I'm not, I guess we'll figure it out at some point. But anyway, right here, you will increase your, this is for all the profession stats. You get a little bit of ingenuity, resourcefulness, and then you unlock sub-specializations, more ingenuity and resourcefulness, and then specialty items, right? And specialty items are all the things that are kind of in here. You'll see this is where you find the Arathi, the Nerubian, Beastly, and then you have Epic Ensembles, which is profession gear, and then you have your spotless stitching. This is for making armor kits and reagents, so this is where you want to go for that. So that's good to know. And then these are if you want to focus on any of those extra patterns besides the overall leather or mail armor. As for builds, if you want to go the material route and you want to focus on that, then you're going to have to put 10 points at least into this one here, and then 30 points in spotless stitching. Now, that's pretty much everything that you can do for materials by itself, because this over here will also increase it, right, over in Learned Leatherworker. If I was going for just a pure material build, I would go 10 points into this one, 30 points into this one, and then I would go into Learned Leatherworker, and then I would max this entire page out, because this is, not only resourcefulness, right, because you'll get more materials when you're crafting leatherworking patterns, and then this is for ingenuity as well, and then you have resourceful or multi-craft when you're crafting consumables and reagents. I would say in most cases, just because the ranks, the quality matters way more on recipe difficulty this time around, I would think that multi-crafting is going to be best to get early on. So I would probably focus on that. You only have to put 5 points into Learned Leatherworker, and then you can actually just go straight into multi-crafting. Whether multi-crafting or resourcefulness or even concentration is the best one for you depends on, how much time you have to put into the profession, how much time you have to sit there and make gold, and whether or not you can babysit markets, or whether you want to go out and farm, or you only have a certain amount of time per character. So some considerations to make as to what you want to focus on for the quality and the quantity of the materials that you are making. So just keep that in mind. But that's like most of what you can focus on for materials, because besides these two, luxurious leathers and concrete chitin, I hope I'm saying that right. These do nothing for reagents at all. These don't do anything at all for materials, so you don't want to even think about looking at that. Now, into the next possibilities. After that, you have your gear choices, which is leather gear or mail gear. As for leather, I talked about this a little bit earlier. You're going to have to make choices based on what you want to craft, right? In general, when it comes to seasonal content, people are going to go for the slots that make sense on best in slot lists that people like the best players on WoW, they put together right before some content comes out or right before a raid comes out. And you can wait for those, or you can just pick whichever one that you might want to focus on. It's hard to say exactly which ones are going to be good, because it all depends on how they kind of fit in with the time-gated content on how people can get their gear. So it's impossible to make a build that's perfectly designed for gear crafting, for leather, for example. But same thing goes for mail, just because of the fact that it's not always going to be like an easy, this is how you have to do it. There's a lot of different options. And even with a best in slot set list, right? There's still going to be options where, say that tunics and hoods and mantles are going to be the best. If everyone follows that list, then you're going to have so much competition that the amount of profit that you can make on those are really, really low, and it's barely worth it to do, like at all, right? So picking some of the ones that might not be as popular is still completely a fine idea, because if we can use Dragonflight to talk about any of this, right? Even the slots that were barely talked about and weren't really featured on any lists, people were still making them, because there's a lot of players in this game that do not follow those guides. If they're more casual, if they just want the transmog, or they don't really care about all those things and they're just crafting something to get something put together, or whatever it is, right? There could be a lot of reasons, but obviously certain recipes, or well, certain gear slots are going to be more in demand than others. It's pretty easy to figure that out. The same thing goes for a mail build, like all the same points, all the same reasoning is the exact same like principle for this stuff. So nothing changes if you were to go for mail gear. If you want to focus on any of the Arathi or Nerubian or Beastly stuff, I would still recommend that you go into the overall talent trees here first, because it will still increase like how good you are at making these particular patterns. Obviously, if you want to get even better, because you can see here, this one here, the Arathi pattern, is, if you want it at a quality 5, you can see that you need 565 skill, right? And if you go on to any of these as well, you'll see that this regular male one, or even this one here, these only cost 380 in your recipe skill. So there is a difference in the total amount of recipe difficulty that you need, because some of these are specialty and they have some equip effects and they look a little different and all that jazz. So if you want to get really good at making those, then you're also going to have to put some points into Arathi, Nerubian, or Beastly Bulwarks. But I would do that afterwards, okay? That's at least probably the smartest thing. And then you could also say that, okay, well, I want to make, let's just say this, right? This is a waist and this is a bracer, so belt and bracers. And then you go in for, this is male. Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and go into the male section, and I want to be good at making belts over here, and then bracers is over here. So you can see, okay, well, I can't be good at making both of these. They're also, just as a reminder, this is a leather version, this is a male version, but just, you want to stick in either this side or this side if you want, like, at least early on, because if you put a bunch of points into opening these, right, you have to unlock the sub-specializations to get down to these, and that means you have to put, you know, at least 10 points in to unlock 1, and then another 10 points to unlock 2. So it's a lot of points that you put into one side of this particular profession tree, and the same thing goes for leather. So once you've made the decision to go for either, for example, in leather tree, shaped leather armor or embroidered leather armor, you want to focus on these. And that goes for the same if you want to get into the specialized gear crafting patterns, then you want to focus on the ones that you know, are in this section. So if you decide to go for chests and helms and shoulders and bracers, well, then you want to go for the ones that actually have those recipes, right? Those are the ones. So maybe if you can combine those, that's something to at least think about. As you can see right here for the bestial patterns, this has a chest piece on it. So if you're over here in breastplates for mail or for leather, well, then we could say, okay, we're going to put some points into beastly bulwarks. That's the way that you can go. But there's not really that many other options. It's pretty straightforward for leatherworking. as for what you can choose for profession builds, it's you know, I wouldn't really. You could use an alt for the profession gear, the profession equipment, to make that for people, because a lot of players are gonna want this, especially profession users. So you could also make a build that goes straight towards the profession equipment, and that would mean that you put 10 points into this one here, and then you just put 30 points into this, and 40, that's 40 points total. And obviously there's some of the other ones that'll impact it a little bit as well, depending on what it is, but the most of the ones that will straight impact it is just epic ensembles. That's because it gives you skill, resourcefulness, more skill, ingenuity, skill, resourcefulness, and then more skill, ingenuity, and less concentration when you're using it. So I would say, nice disconnection, but I would say for leatherworking, I would probably recommend that if you wanted to get into profession gear, at least early on, I would have one character that just does only profession equipment, because there's a lot of points to put into that. Like if you put 40 points into it and you decide that that's what you want to focus on a little bit, it's 40 points that you can't put into gear crafting or material crafting. So it's hard to do multiple things at once early on. You're going to have to be like pretty specific about what you want to focus on. So just keep that in mind when you're making decisions as to what kind of a build that you want to go into. I hope this made sense. I hope this was good and informative. If you did make it to this point in the video, make sure that you type I don't even know. Type flawless down in the comments below, because I'm looking at it right here. Type flawless down in the comments below. And also, if you have any questions about anything that I said in the video or anything about the profession, make sure that you drop that down in the comments below as well. I'd love to talk about it. But that is everything that I have for this videos. And so I'll just say now, as always, I'll see you on the next one.